What does forgiveness mean? Forgiveness means that God welcomes anyone. I want you to close your eyes and let's go ahead and take a couple of deep breaths together. God, we welcome your presence. We ask, God, that you would be with us, that you would set apart our imagination, that you would use our imagination to connect with you. Come, Holy Spirit. I want you to imagine that you live in a small town where everyone knows who you are. It isn't that you're popular, but everyone knows who you are because they just don't like you. You see, your job requires you to go to people's houses and collect money from them. It's called taxes. Think about the story of Robin Hood. Imagine that you are the sheriff of Nottingham, if you know this story. The story is that you steal money from the poor and you give it to the rich. Nobody really likes you. You're sort of an outcast and you feel lonely. Imagine what it would be like to be that person. Just imagine what it would be like to be that person. So you are the village tax collector. And sometimes you're dishonest. You take more money from people than you're supposed to collect. You know that it isn't right, but the temptation is too great. The money is too easy to come by. You have all of the power, and nobody really knows that you're being dishonest. They only suspect you of being dishonest. And so you lie to them. You lie to everyone. You steal from people, and you lie to people, and you take their money. And by doing this, you have become a really wealthy person. Most of the time, you don't really think about it, but sometimes, when you're honest with yourself and your life and the choices that you have made, it bothers you. Could you imagine if this was your life? Think now about your own life. Your real life. Your life as a little boy or a little girl. Maybe you're in middle school or maybe you're even in high school. Think about your brothers and your sisters, maybe your friends. Are there any areas of your life that bother you? Are there any choices that you make that cause you to feel sad or maybe ashamed? Do you ever feel like you're an outcast? Do you ever feel like you've done something wrong? Could you just reflect on your life for a moment? Is there any time you feel like you're not wanted to be around? Okay. So now imagine that you're back to being that tax collector in the village. Go back to that story. Remember, you are the village sheriff. You're the one that collects the money. And you notice a crowd beginning to gather as Jesus walks through the town. And everyone wants to be around Jesus. Everyone is pressing in close to be around him. And you have a hard time seeing what he's doing and hearing the things he's saying. You try to get through the crowds so that you can see Jesus. but people push you out and they prevent you from getting through. You look down the road and you see a tree on the side of the road. It looks as though Jesus is going to go right past that tree. And so you run ahead of the crowd, you climb the tree, and you wait for Jesus to pass by. Something about Jesus makes you want to meet him, to talk with him, and to hear his voice clearly. Do you imagine that scene? You climb the tree and you wait for Jesus to pass. So as you sit in this tree, you have a few minutes to think before Jesus comes by. You think about your life and how much you wish you could change. As you sit in the tree and think about your life, what comes to mind? What if Jesus looks right at you as he passes you by? What would you say to him? What would you want to ask him? So Jesus is passing by now, and he does look at you. He stops walking, he comes closer to the tree, and he calls out your name. He says, "Come down from that tree and show me the way to your house. I want to eat dinner with you." Out of all the people in the town and all the people who are gathered around, he has chosen to eat dinner with you tonight. Imagine climbing down from the tree and walking over to where Jesus is standing. He looks at you and he smiles. He knows all about you. He knows that you're the tax collector. He knows that you lie, that you cheat. He knows that you steal, and he wants to have dinner with you. Forgiveness means that we can have peace with God. And forgiveness means that God welcomes anyone.